There have been some wild developments lately in the world of Minecraft speedrunning. On December 8th, No Fear beat 1.16 random seed glitchless in 7 minutes and 24 seconds, beating Xylonox's world record that had stood for 10 months. It was a huge breakthrough, but what was even more surprising was when, less than a month later, Drip120 beat that run by just as much, lowering the record to 7 minutes and 1 second. Things got stranger when we found out that Drip's run wasn't officially verifiable, which sparked a lot of debate, although the decision was eventually reversed, allowing the run to be verified. But in between these landmark runs was a third one, and it might have been the craziest run of them all. Sometimes, crazy paces and incredible opportunities turn into history right before our eyes, but just as often, they barely miss the mark, and go down as a footnote instead. On December 12th, 2023, just 4 days after No Fear's world record, Doog played a very special run, and it would be a shame for it to be left by the wayside when we look back on this month of Minecraft speedrunning in the future. So, buckle your seatbelts as we dive into one of the most incredible second place runs in speedrunning history. This is the story of Doog's 730. To understand this run, you need to know a little bit about the man behind it. A competitive Bed Wars player and speed bridger turned speedrunner, Doog is part of the elite class of modern Minecraft speedrunners. And depending on who you ask, he's arguably the best Minecraft speedrunner in the game today. His big breakthrough came on November 6th, 2022, when he set a new world record in 1.16 RSG with an 8:15, beating the previous record by 22 seconds. Now, Doog's not the kind of runner who plays just to get the world record. His goal is to beat the game as fast as he can, and try to best his own standards, not just other people's. Still, after not too long, he would have to fight to reclaim his title, as Xylonox set a new record on February 7th with a 7:45. While Doog is an incredible runner, even the best runners don't control how long it'll take for them to find the seed that can bring them to greatness. But 4.5 months after Xylonox's record, Doog got into a run where it looked like he might be about to take the world record back. He was able to leave the Nether with all of his Eyes of Ender at 4 minutes and 28 seconds, the fastest ever in a sub 11 and 25 seconds earlier than Xylonox was able to. Unfortunately, some terrible Nether terrain meant he had to spend almost a minute digging through a wall in order to build his portal in the right place, and his pace fell back behind. He entered the end almost 40 seconds behind Xylonox, but gave himself a shot by pulling off an incredibly well-played end fight, zero cycling the dragon despite end generation that gave him a very tight window to pull it off. But in the end, it was just barely not enough, as he finished the run with a 7:51, giving him second place by a margin of 6 seconds. The top of the leaderboard would stay just like that for another 6 months, right up until No Fear's world record. In this time frame, Xylonox and Doog had both been running fairly regularly, but neither had had a breakthrough. With a new world record though, they had even more motivation to beat their best. And just 4 days after No Fear's world record, with the iron still hot, Doog got off to a run that, as it went on, started grabbing a lot of people's attention. So with all that in mind, let's take a look at the run Doog is about to pull off. Doog is running a terrifying 18-instance wall of Minecraft worlds, looking for a good beach spawn to give him a good starting point for the run. Normally, the first thing he'd do in a world is use his pie chart to look for buried treasure chests near spawn, since that's how he's planning to get the tools and materials he needs to enter the Nether. But this world immediately greets him with a completable ruined portal, so he runs over to it and grabs the chest. He starts to check for buried treasure, but also right nearby is a shipwreck, which could also have the materials he needs, so he heads there instead. In the modern meta of 1.16, it's an unusual start to the run. Only one other run in the current top 10 doesn't start with a buried treasure. But part of being an elite runner, which Doog certainly is being able to accomplish your goals in whatever way might be possible on a given seed. Not that looting a shipwreck is particularly hard, but you get my point. Doog gets all the iron he needs from the shipwreck, crafts his tools with characteristically great mechanics, and uses the lone tree on the island to collect wood and leaves to use as building blocks. blocks. With everything collected, he stops by the ship again to loot the food chest, then heads back to the ruined portal, where he'll use the lava to fill in the missing blocks. He stutters a little bit in this process, taking stock of his inventory, being out of reach of this water block, but his portal build is smooth, and he gets into the Nether at 1 minute and 46 seconds. This is a fine but not great pace, although it's only 7 seconds behind No Fear's Nether entry. This difference doesn't really matter at this point in the run, but it also does. On the one hand, anything could happen in the rest of the run, and being 7 seconds behind isn't something that's gonna worry a runner even a little bit here. On the other hand, just 7 more seconds, and Doog would have had the world record. But that's speedrunning for you. In the Nether, the first thing Doog does is watch the entity counter on the F3 screen, where a spike likely indicates a bastion. He needs the bastion to trade gold for ender pearls, obsidian, and explosives, and he also needs a nether fortress to get blaze rods. There's no bastion super nearby, but after a moment, Doog spots a fortress right next to his portal, so it could be worth traveling a little bit to get to a bastion. He heads towards the entity spike, and after riding his boat to a lower area, he sees that the terrain to get to the bastion is way less bad than it could have been. The bastion is a housing bastion, and because he's entering it from the bottom, Doog will use the typical manhunt route to gather piglins and trade gold with them. He goes for the first chest he sees and breaks it to anger the piglins around him, getting them to pursue him as he leads them into his trap. He breaks a second chest in the center of the bastion, temporarily changes his difficulty to hard to attract as many piglins as possible, and takes his time getting to his spot, not wanting to make it too hard for the piglins to keep up. He places fire here to make sure the piglins follow the path Doog is laying out for them, then breaks into this room and digs into the floor where gold blocks are waiting for him. He gives the piglins a spot to funnel into, and right on cue, they arrive as he continues mining gold. As he waits for the pigs to trade, he takes a moment to organize his inventory in preparation for the rest of the run. Next, with a little spring in his step from the suspicious stew he ate, he'll check the chest he climbed past earlier, where he'll hopefully get plenty of obsidian for nether portals. In lots of runs, he would be trying to get 20 obsidian. First 10 for a second portal he would build after he gets blaze rods, where he would go to the overworld, throw Eyes of Ender to determine where the Stronghold is, and come right back to the Nether where he could travel more quickly. The other 10 would be to build a third Nether portal on the coordinates that correspond to the Stronghold's location in the overworld. In this run though, since the Nether Fortress is so close to where Doog entered the Nether, he can use his original Nether portal to find the Stronghold, and he'll only need the 10 obsidian for that final portal. In a stroke of bad luck though, between the 2 chests and double chests that he's looted, he only gets 6 obsidian, meaning he'll have to rely on piglin trades for the final 4. That's far from a guarantee, especially since housing is a bastion with less gold blocks along the bastion route than others. But of course, the piglins are happy to cooperate, more than doubling Doog's obsidian wares and giving him all the ender pearls and string, which he'll use to make beds, that he could ask for. He waits for one last set of trades, then ender pearls back the way he came at 3 minutes and 46 seconds. Everything's gone pretty smoothly so far, with no huge time losses, but nothing super fast either. Despite that, Doog is actually almost 20 seconds ahead of No Fear at this point in his run, although that run did involve an extremely fast later portion of the run. For reference, Doog is about 40 seconds behind Xylonox's pace in his 7:45 that No Fear beat. So again, we turn to the age-old adage: anything can happen from here on out. Doog's got a ways to travel to get to his fortress, but he's accurate with his end pearls. Once he's 1 pearl past his nether portal, he does a pearl hang, throwing a pearl and quickly reducing his render distance so it's not loaded in. This way, once he's ready to leave the nether fortress, all he has to do is turn his render distance back up and he'll teleport right to his portal. He reaches the fortress at 4:17, and at this point, he's pretty much dead even with No Fear. Because he's in a soul sand valley, he can count on lots of stray blazes spawning, and he doesn't have to worry as much about finding a blaze spawner. He's greeted by 3 above the bridge right away, and 2 of them drop blaze rods. Next, he approaches a squad of 4 more blazes and a couple wither skeletons, and while one of them falls off the side of the bridge, 2 of the other 3 drop rods. Doog wants 6 blaze rods ideally, since he could need up to 12 Eyes of Ender to fill the portal, but he's also got to keep an eye on the clock and know when he needs to leave. Like clockwork, 3 more blazes appear, and the first one drops Doog's 5th rod, just 1 more to go. But frustratingly, the other 2 both drop nothing. Here, Doog has a decision to make. There's no more blazes immediately nearby, but there is one just under the bridge. Does he leave the fortress now and bank on the 1 in 3 chance that he'll be able to fill the end portal with 10 eyes? Or does he spend valuable seconds, probably about 10, on the 1 in 2 chance that he'll get a 6th rod from that blaze? Well, No Fear left the Nether at 5:01, so Doog would undoubtedly fall behind if he spent any more time at the fortress. Plus, No Fear's record had a very fast endgame, and a fast end fight in particular, so that wouldn't be time Doog could easily make up later. Mindfully staying aware of all of this while still playing at full capacity, Doog unhangs his pearl and gets back into the overworld at 5:03. With just one perfectly positioned and measured Eye of Ender throw, the calculator created by Ninja Brain can tell Doog exactly where the nearest stronghold is, and exactly where he has to build his portal in the Nether to travel straight into it. He pauses to do some preemptive inventory management, crafting his beds that he'll use to blow up the dragon, then travels right back into the Nether. He's in at 5 minutes and 30 seconds, 7 seconds ahead of No Fear. It's still extremely close. It's anyone's game, but Doog is, at this moment, on world record pace. The last time he was in this position, terrible terrain in the Nether slowed him down on his way to building his last Nether portal. The question is, will he be luckier this time? He throws one Ender Pearl, then another. He lands at the bottom of a lava lake, which is annoying because it takes a minute to swim up, but once he's at the surface, he's just a little expertly done speed bridging away from his portal coordinates. Keep in mind that he's speed bridging right now over just a few blocks to save fractions of seconds, with distorted speed and field of view due to his soul speed boots, while being on world record pace and under enormous pressure. Being one of the best speed bridgers in the world has its perks, I guess. With much more reasonable Nether travel than last time, Doog is into the Stronghold at 6 minutes and 5 seconds, and he's in a fascinating spot right now. There are two ways to look at this situation. On the one hand, Doog's 8 seconds ahead of the world record, with just two major tasks left ahead of him. Find the end portal to enter the end, and kill the dragon to beat the game. At the same time, No Fear had an incredibly fast endgame, and his end fight in particular, which from entering the end to reaching the end screen of the game was just 55 seconds, was almost as fast as it can possibly get. What's maybe more concerning though is how he pulled that off, a zero cycle. If you're not familiar with the term, a zero cycle is a method of killing the Ender Dragon where runners Ender Pearl onto the obsidian tower the dragon is circling immediately as they enter the end, build off of the tower to a predetermined height, and kill the dragon one bed at a time as it tries to lower itself to the Y level where it can start freely roaming the end. The other method of killing the dragon in 1.16 speedruns is the one cycle, where runners wait for the dragon to perch at the fountain in the middle of the island and kill it there. A one cycle is much more luck-based, as the player doesn't control when the dragon perches, and a zero cycle will generally be faster than even the fastest one cycles, although not by so much that one cycles aren't still useful. The current world record, Drip 127.01, uses a one cycle. Unfortunately though, zero cycles are also much more difficult than one cycles. Not only do they require a ton of memorization and practice in order to react to however the end might generate and where the dragon might spawn, but the dragon's flight path is less optimal than a one cycle for beds to deal damage when they explode. The standard amount of beds a runner needs for a one cycle is 4, with runners usually wanting a 5th bed to be safe. For zero cycles, 5 beds will do the trick some of the time, but 6 is much more comfortable. And right now, Doog has 5 beds in his inventory. In other words, he's either gonna have to zero cycle or be really fast the rest of the way and then get a really lucky one cycle. But don't forget, he's still 8 seconds ahead of the record that was set 4 days ago, whose predecessor had stood for 10 months. If he can pull this off, this will be legendary. Into the Stronghold, Doog uses his pie chart to look for block entities, trying to see where the silverfish spawner in the end portal room is. He heads in the right direction, immediately sees the portal, and is into the end just 10 seconds after entering the Stronghold. He's got 14 seconds on No Fear now. This just might be possible. He spawns in the end underground, which is never what you want when you're going for a zero cycle, since you only have so much time before the dragon lowers itself enough to stop circling its starting pillar. Doog isn't phased though. While his chat tries to process the insanity they just witnessed in the Stronghold, he digs straight up and pearls through a block, frantically trying to get to the dragon. He instantly assesses the dragon's position and sees that it's on a nearby tower, and despite the time lost in the spawn room, he might still be able to reach it before it's too low. But as he reaches the top of the tower, he sees just how close he would be cutting it. Almost impossibly close, and glides down to the ground where he'll pivot and go for a one cycle. If he had tried to go for it, he would have been taking a close to 0 chance that he could have done the zero cycle in an insanely tight window with just 5 beds, for the payoff of handily beating the world record, pushing close to the 7-minute mark. Instead, he'll take the uncertain, but much more plausible chance that the dragon perches fast enough for him to complete the run and beat his own personal best of 751. And who knows, with an insta-perch, Doog technically could still beat No Fear. So with his perch set up and just 45 seconds left on the clock, Doog rests his fate in the hands of the dragon. And somehow, miraculously, after less than 30 seconds, Doog sees the dragon enter its perch approach. It's gonna be incredibly close, but Doog doesn't have any time to think about that. With an elevated fountain generation, Doog needs to be super accurate with his pearl throw or risk not getting into the fountain in time to kill the dragon. But of course, he hits his mark. And from here, the noise fades out and muscle memory kicks in. A new world record that took 10 months for anybody to pull off. And just 4 days later, the only thing stopping Doog from beating it was 4 seconds. But hey, the second fastest run in Minecraft history ain't too shabby either. And while the time to beat is now 7:01, I don't think there's anyone who doubts that Doog will be back for more. I want to give a huge shout out to Doog for this amazing run, and shout out to the other runners and world record holders in this video. Thanks so much to you guys for watching and making it to the end, and if you enjoyed, be sure to drop a like, comment down below what you want to see a video about next, and send the video to someone else you think might like it. That's all from us for today, but again, thanks so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.